Hello folks, Taylor Johnson here. I wanted to give you a quick look at the buyer agency agreement. Now that the NAR settlement has gone through and the rules have changed, the forms have changed a little bit. So let's take it the new version of the buyer agency agreement as of August 2024. So it states here that, this is a contract between you, the home buyer by name, and the brokerage. So you are actually making an arrangement with the brokerage and then with me as the assigned representative of that brokerage. In consideration of services, buyer brokers hereby granted the following. So the purpose of this is to establish the relationship between you and me and the brokerage. And we have the exclusive right to represent you. And our duties are to use our professional knowledge and skills to help you find and present a property and present your offer. We are able to assist you through the process of acquisition and advocate on your behalf and represent your interests in all negotiations. Remember, once the agency agreement is signed, I have a fiduciary duty. I always have confidentiality, but with the agreement, I definitely have fiduciary as well, which means I must always act in your best interests. Your responsibilities are that you will work exclusively with our brokerage and me during the terms of the agreement. And if you have any questions, you find any properties that you are interested in, you let me know. If you're interested in looking at a new home, please call me and go with me, because sometimes new homes are a little tricky on how they regulate whether or not you have an agent. And the compensation for my services. So this is the part that has really changed. Before it was more or less, it was always negotiable, and you and I would agree on a number, but I also agreed to take whatever the seller was offering, and we cannot do that anymore. So you and I must negotiate a number, and it's clear that it is negotiable, is not prescribed by law or any established custom, right? So the compensation is either a percentage of the sales amount or a fixed dollar amount due at the settlement, as said in this contract. You can either agree to pay it as an additional closing cost at settlement, so that's extra cash out of your pocket, or you ask me to seek compensation from the seller when we are negotiating a purchase of a property. And you're still paying it in that way, but it's built into the sale price and it's financed. Otherwise, it's cash out of your pocket. So this is the one that I recommend that most people are trying to go for, particularly if you're first-time buyers or you're tight on your cash. This allows you to finance the compensation. In addition, there is a flat fee that is paid to the brokerage. In my case, it's a $300 flat fee. Depends on the agent, depends on the brokerage, depends on all that kind of stuff. This, by the way, is a standard contract for DC and Montgomery County, put together by the Greater GCAR, the Greater Council of Area, Greater Capital Area Agents, whatever, Agency of Realtors, something like that. There is a protection period. So if the buyer agency expires and you still buy a property that I took you to see before it expired, then I'm protected a little bit by 10 days that I set here. Some agents do more, some do less. Certainly that's negotiable also, so that I'm still due some compensation because I helped you find that property. And the amount of compensation offered this is the important thing here, that it may not change and it cannot be above whatever number we've agreed to here. So let's say we are in an agreement, we're looking at a property, and you want to put in an offer, and you and I have agreed to X amount of compensation, and the seller is actually offering us Y, and Y is greater than X. I cannot take the difference. I cannot take any more. I can only take X. And so what I would argue then is we should go to the seller and say, hey, we're actually saving you a little bit on what you were offering to pay for compensation. Can we put that towards the sale price or as a cash credit towards the buyer, depending on what you would prefer? Conversely, if the seller is offering less than what you and I have agreed to, and we go forward with that purchase in that case, then you would owe the difference. And that's what that is saying in here. This agreement is over a specific period of time. We can do it for 1 day. So here's one thing else that's changed because of this lawsuit. I can no longer just take people to look at a property. I must have a signed buyer agency agreement to do that. I'm legally representing the seller otherwise. So we can do it for 1 day. We can do it for a week. We can do it for 5 months, right? And we can always extend it if we need to. So this is the time period for the agency agreement. In DC, it can be canceled at any time by mutual written consent by both parties. In Maryland, it can be unilaterally terminated, so you can cancel it by delivering a notice, and I usually say 2 days. And the contractual obligation still remains in effect unless the other side agrees to it as well. Disclaimer here, remember that I am a lowly real estate agent. I am not an accountant. I am not a lawyer. I am not a construction person. I am not an engineer, any of those things. I do have some expertise in those areas. I can help and advise slightly, but I always encourage clients to go and find their own advice through professionals in those fields who can really support them with the answers that they need. General provision, laws and regulations of DC or Maryland apply, of course, depending on where we're buying the property. Also, it is important to note that I am bound by the Code of Ethics of the National Association of Realtors, and I urge you to go read that. It is really, really strong. Delivery means that we must give assigned papers back to people, and your agreement is not enforceable until it is delivered. It may be that you and the seller have both signed, but we didn't get it delivered back, so the counting doesn't start. Nothing happens until it's delivered to both sides. And in DC, we're going to have a consent for dual and designated representation. In Maryland, we would have consent for dual agency, and they are slightly different definitions on where they are. But let's look at the DC one. So in DC, dual representation occurs when a seller or landlord has entered into a listing agreement with a licensee, that would be me, and the buyer or tenant has entered in a buyer brokerage agreement with the same licensee. So dual agency occurs when the same agent represents both the buyer and the seller in DC. In Maryland, dual agency occurs when the brokerage represents both the buyer and the seller, even if it's different agents. So in DC, that's called designated representation. The broker is the same, but the buyer agent is me and the seller agent is somebody else. So what I don't really feel that there's any way that I can truly honor confidentiality and fiduciary duty for both buyer and seller. So I will not do, whether it's allowed or not, agency for both seller and buyer. I will only do one side. So I always ask my clients to agree to designated representation where the broker, Keller Williams Capital Properties, is shared, but the representative for the seller, for the buyer, is me, and the representative for the seller is somebody else. Okay, that's an overview of the buyer agency agreement and how you would need to do that. My name again is Taylor Johnson. I am an agent with Keller Williams Capital Properties and part of the Eng Garcia team. I'm here to be a resource for you. If you found this helpful, please click the like button below so it finds other folks like you. And if you have any questions, reach out to me. I'm here for you. Have a wonderful day. Thank you so much for your time. Bye now.